Alright, you lot, right, nice simple premise for today's video. 10 reasons why you shouldn't vote for the Tories. Ten reasons why you shouldn't vote for the Tories. 10 reasons why over the last 12 years of Tory government, this country has been destroyed. Now, I know what you're thinking. 10 reasons, is that it? Wake me from a drunken stupor and I could give you 100. But, you know, if I was going to list everything, this video would be 2 hours long. That's why it's your mission in the comment section to just flood it. Flood my comment section with every single one that I don't mention in this video. So 10 reasons not to vote Conservative. And we'll work our way back, shall we? So let's start with the most recent thing, which is the £9 billion of PPE fraud. The PPE that's sitting there unused, faulty, because the PPE contracts were not given out to the people that will get the job done most efficiently, cost efficiently and time efficiently. But no, it was given to those Conservative donors. And £9 billion of your hard-earned taxpayer money, which is the exact same amount of what they're hiking up the national insurance. So that is a prime example. You can't get a more clearer example where you, the everyday person, with the national insurance hike that's going up in April, May, that is going for the Conservative Party's fraud and useless handling of PPE. And then that brings us on nicely to good old Owen Patterson, lobbied for Ramdox, the company that he gets paid for to get PPE contracts. Clear-cut lobbying, and Boris Johnson is fine with it and defended the guy. So basically the leader of the Conservative Party at the moment is fine with lobbying and fraud, and he's fine with MPs in his party being paid by big multinational companies to be, like I said, they're not even the best person to do the job. You think at least in a pandemic that we haven't seen for 100 years, where thousands upon thousands of people are dying, you'd think at least a government would go, you know what, let's just stop with... Sorry, I've got something in the back of the van. Let's just... Go on then, mate. Are you going to go? Oh, these people with the trolley. Oh, come on. I ain't sitting here all day to let people through. I've got a video to make. Right, okay, let's go. Where the bloody hell was I? Yeah, you'd think at least in a pandemic that the Conservative go, all right, Conservative government will go, let's just put the corruption and all that stuff on hold for a bit, lads. We've got a pandemic. Okay, let's at least try and do the best we can by getting the best companies to get PPE. But no, they have to give it to their donors, the ones that they're going to make a quick buck out of. Disgusting, absolutely disgusting. Voter ID, we've got voter ID that's been pushed forward this year. So basically, I mean, the Conservative Party have pissed off their own voters this year through numerous different things, hiking up tax. Boris Johnson, just being a complete and utter twat, has pissed off most of the Conservative voters. Their handling of COVID, whether you like it or not, lockdowns pissed off a lot of their voter base. So they're a little bit concerned about the next election. So instead of just holding their hands up and going, you know what, I don't think this country wants the Conservatives anymore, they're going to fix the elections. And the way they're doing that is by introducing voter ID. Now, I hear this argument all the time. Well, what's wrong with just having ID when you go and vote? What's wrong with having ID? Well, I don't know whether a lot of you are like fixed in your bubble of having money, but you may like to know that a lot of poor people don't actually have a passport or a driving license because they don't go travelling on foreign holidays each year. They can't afford a car. And this, you can't get a more targeted example of a policy by the Conservative Party to stop poor Labour people voting. This is it, voter ID. We don't need it. 3 people in the last 7 years have been prosecuted for fraud with voting. 3 people. And to put this policy in place, they're going to spend £120 million to put this into force. Why do we need this? 3 people have been caught frauding voting over the last 7 years. 3 people. Is that worth 120 million? Don't you think that could possibly be spent on something a bit better? Imagine the amount of murder cases or rape cases that that didn't get solved, that might have got solved if 120 million was pumped into it. Even just one case. Just give me one unsolved murder and put that 120 million pounds into that. That would be a better use of money than voter fraud. This is a specific target to fix the election, to stop poor people voting. And anyone that says otherwise is delusional. Absolutely delusional. NHS Privatisation. This has ramped up massively over the last 10 years. Now, a lot of people would argue that the Labour government during the late 90s were the ones to put this into effect first, and I can't disagree with that. They didn't do... they could have done a hell of a lot better with the NHS. But over the last 12 years of Tory government, it has gone into the stratosphere. Mainly 2012, I think it was, were the main bill where you really started seeing further privatisation. But just over the last year, we've seen more GP surgeries being taken under private... Oh, yellow. Sorry, every time I brake, I'm going to get a thud in the back because I've got one thing that's sliding around in the back of my van, so do excuse that. But yeah, GP surgeries. And the most worrying thing for me about the further privatisation of the NHS is, now we'll get on to Brexit later, but all these new trade deals that are being done with different countries. The Tories this year voted for basically the NHS being on the table whenever we negotiate trade deals. So if we do get that trade deal with America, you know, we can hand up the NHS to American companies. Now, this is really, really scary for me, and I've said this before in other videos. If you are for a national health service, you cannot be for a Conservative government. And you know, like I say in this video, nothing I'm saying here is opinion. It's not a left-wing agenda or a pro-Labour Party agenda that I have here. I'm just speaking facts, and all my facts are going to be in the description box down below. You know, when I say NHS waiting times have gone up, there's no opinion in that. That's just statistical fact over the last 10 years. And it's statistical fact that over the last 12 years, privatisation of the NHS has skyrocketed. All the information's down below in the description box. I'm going to put all my links down there. It's just fact. And these new trade deals that are going to be the scariest thing for me, because this is an open market to just sell off the NHS to American companies, and it's very standard. So talking on the NHS, next point, just NHS standards in general. Waiting times have gone up, just fact. You know, waiting times for A&E, waiting times for operations have all gone up. Vacancies, oh my God. The shortness of staff in the NHS. Yeah, my wife works in the NHS. I know this full hand, the amount of short staff they have in the NHS. Vacancies over 100,000. It's just, and this goes hand in hand with the Tories' aim to privatise the NHS. Underfund it, make it look shit, and then people will be on board with trying something different. It's just facts, people. You can't complain with it. Homelessness, as I'm going to put the stat up below. I think it's something like increased by 160% homelessness in this country. And this is another one of those things where you don't need to see statistics. You can see that over the last 10 years, homelessness is up. Just walk around your towns and cities. How much more rough sleepers are you seeing? And this goes hand in hand with drug use and alcoholism, and it's all paired together, and it's just facts. There is more homelessness in this country over the last 10 years. And talking of homelessness and rough sleeping, next, high streets. 1 in 8 shops in our high streets now is empty, and the ones that are full of gambling shops, charity shops, pawnbrokers, payday loan places. Again, it's just facts. Just walk down your street and you see it. You don't need to see the figures. I've got links down below to everything, but it's just pure facts. And why are we seeing more homelessness? Why are we seeing these problems in our high streets? 280,000 less social homes in this country over the last 10 years. And what the Tories do is, they big up in Parliament that they've built 100,000 new social homes. Or that policy where every single private landlord building that's rented, if they build a block of flats with 200 in, they have to, they give, all right, we'll give 5 of those to social. We'll let them have 5 out of our 200 flats that are now privately rented. We'll let them have 5. That's where that comes from. So they boast that they've increased social housing, 100,000 new social houses, but then they don't tell you about the 300 that have either been demolished or been sold off into private hands. Social housing hardly exists in this country now. And it's disgusting, and that goes hand in hand with generation rent, which is the next point, number 9, 8. I haven't been counting. Rent has skyrocketed over the last 10 years. House prices have skyrocketed over the last 10 years. If you're a young person, you've got zero chance of being able to afford your own house. I've done a video on this before as well. Go check it out. These all go hand in hand, and yeah, I agree. Labour didn't do too much during the 90s to solve social housing, but it hasn't skyrocketed like it had in the last 10 years. It's just out of control. And then let's finish off with Brexit, shall we? Now, I don't want to talk about whether you're pro-Brexit or anti-Brexit. I mean, that's the point alone. If you're anti-Brexit, then the Tory party are the reason that we have Brexit in the first place. If UKIP wasn't pushing them for these policies and they stuck to their guns, because the Tory party during Cameron was a pro-European, overwhelmingly pro-European party, but the fear of losing all these votes to UKIP and not winning the next election put the Brexit agenda. But like I say, I'm not here to talk about whether you're Remain or not. The Brexit that the Tory party have given us, that's what I want to talk about. I mean, if we remained, it's Remain. That's it. But Brexit, no one really knows. No one really knew what Brexit was. You've got a million different types of Brexit. You've got a soft Brexit, a Norway-style Brexit. You've got a staying in the customs union Brexit. You've got so many different types of Brexit. So I want to talk about the Brexit that we got, that the Tory party delivered for the UK people, is the worst Brexit imaginable. It's just, just talk about trade. Like I say, these are all facts. It's not opinion. There's so much opinion on Brexit, and you can have opinion about what's going to happen in the future. If in 50 years time we're going to have Brexit utopia land, that's a different conversation. I'm talking about today, what the Tory party have given us on trade. And there is no dispute that Brexit has made trade in this country more expensive, less efficient, slower, but most importantly, more expensive. And whether you like it or not, we live in a country where we import, build and export. We don't make things really in this country. When you look at car manufacturing and stuff like that, we bring in parts to the UK, we build stuff and then we export it out. You can talk about whether that should be what we're doing in this country. Maybe we should be making stuff. That's a conversation for a different part of the day. But you've got to have something in plan. If you're going to completely rip down the whole system that we've lived by for the last 60 years, you need to have something in plan to replace it. Anyway, I can go on about Brexit all day, but that's just pure facts. Trade is more expensive, less efficient and slower under this Tory government. And I think that's my 10. Now, if you're happy with all of that, if you're happy with corruption and fraud in your government, if you're happy with fruitless taxpayers' money being wasted away, if you're happy with increased homelessness, if you're happy with insane cost of living, if you're happy with a private NHS, if you don't want a national health service anymore, then by all means vote for these prigs. But if you're not, Stop it. Stop voting for them. Of course, let me know your thoughts, guys. Please flood the comment section with all the ones that I missed, because there's thousands. Give me more reasons not to vote Tory. Till next time, take care.